morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from Juneau, Alaska. Today's verse is 1 Peter 3:18. For Christ also died for sins once for all, the just for the unjust, so that he might bring us to God, having been put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit. Well, it starts with 4, and that indicates that there's an idea in front of that, and this is saying, here's the reason for the previous idea. Well, what was the previous idea? It was sacrificing to the point of suffering, so that we could give everything to Jesus out of love. He could have anything in our lives that he might want, and he might want it because it is getting in the way of me loving him. So he could then have my money, he could have my RV, he could have my sexuality, he could have my marital status, he could have my diet, he could have my hobbies, he could have my free time, he could have my political affiliations. He could have anything in my life, and especially if it gets in the way of loving him, then really he would be doing me a favor by getting rid of it, right? That's the loving thing to do, is paring everything off that could get in the way. So the best thing that we could do is just really choose to love him to the point where, yes, you can have it. He might test us in that just to see how serious we are about letting him have anything. But then the reward is much better. It says, for Christ also died. And of course, that's the ultimate sacrifice, that we would give him even our very lives, should he need that. And Christ died an awful, terrible death on the cross. And that's the obvious sacrifice. But we sometimes forget that he did other sacrifices that may not be quite so dramatic, but were things that are an example for us. Think about this. How did Jesus live during his ministry? Did he live high off the hog? Have the first century equivalent of cars and planes and a fleet of limos and things like that? No, he really didn't even have a bed to sleep in, carried no money. He relied completely on God because he sought first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and any fleshly thing that might be needed to live on this earth, food, water, shelter, blah, blah, blah. He knew that God was going to provide what he needed. He was willing to let go of everything. That's the example of sacrifice that we could follow. It says, for Christ also died for sins once for all. I'm glad it says once for all, because not only did he die for my sins all the way up to the point where I received him and became a Christian, but just in case I might happen to sin tomorrow, and boy, I hope not, but in case, that died once for all would cover that as well. So I don't have to worry that now I got to do everything on my own because the sacrifice stopped somehow after I received Christ. No, the sacrifice is always there to guide me and cover my sins. Then it says the just for the unjust. Jesus, the just one, the one who never did sin, died for me, the unjust one, the one who sinned a whole lot and deserves to die. That's why it's so powerful, his death, that he only needed to die once and not over and over. So that he might usher in political change to America. Wait, it doesn't say that. It says so that he might bring us to God. So that's the main key. Nothing about politics here. It's about coming to God. That's where it's all about. Having been put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit. Yes, Jesus sacrificed all the way to letting his flesh completely die. But the focus is on the spirit, and that's where our focus should be, getting rid of any fleshly thing that might get in the way of our relationship with him. That is really the best thing we can do, because the ultimate is to love him every moment, because then we're going to love him every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.